Testing. Testing. Good. You ready? You ready? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Let's go.
I ain't scared of you.
It was interesting. Good evening. Welcome to Conscious Fever here on ICE Entertainment Television and Conscious Fever Radio. I am Carl Price, your host. Tonight, I am without my co-host, Paul Mullins, and I hope that's okay with everybody. Of course, y'all can always comment there on the bottom. We'll try to take your comments and post your comments. Uh, yeah, I noticed that, Monique, but do me a favor. Tell me if the audio is still chopped and screwed, even after the promo. Okay, I'll wait for you to tell me that if it's really chopped and screwed. Let me see, because I think I can hear it. Okay, I'll wait for you to tell me that if it's really chopped and screwed. Let me see, because I. Okay, yeah, I think that was just the introduction. So anyway, listen. I am Carl Price. We're live from Louisville, Kentucky. Tonight we're talking about something very interesting, and I'm going to do my best to try to. Okay, I sound fine. Thank you, thank you, thank you, Monique. Um, this is what we're talking about tonight. We're talking about dirty water. Dirty water is our topic tonight. And you see the subtitle there. Just how bad is the Louisville Water Company treating black people? And we're not. I doubt that that's something that we can solve tonight. But we're going to talk about it tonight. I have two guests with me tonight, and my producer has actually taken my cheat sheet away. Now I got it back. Torian Murphy, he's a former meter exchanger at the Louisville Water Company, as well as an activist, um, Pastor Self Petway. So a lot of things that we're going to talk about tonight, but we're going to be focused on what we see at the Louisville. Actually, what a lot of us didn't know was going on at the Louisville Water Company. I mean, you can only imagine that in 2024, in a uh, good evening, Stephanie, in a in an environment where we had to listen to uh, this convicted felon that is running for president, that we have a situation in downtown Louisville, ironically, so close to the Pendennis Club, and you all know the history of the Pendennis Club. The history of the Pendennis Club is that no Negroes allowed for many, many years until probably like in the 80s. I think the last Supreme Court case involving the Pendennis Club actually ended either in the late 90s or the 2000s, just trying to rid itself of, well, they were not doing it themselves. There was a lawsuit to rid them of the discrimination right in the middle of downtown. But not so far from the Pendennis Club is the Louisville Water Company. Uh, Good evening, Monica. So, in any case, we're going to talk about that tonight. I don't want you all to go anywhere. You know what I do? We like to keep you all fully aware of the presidential campaign. So, when I come back, I'm going to be joined by Pastor Petway as well as Torian Murphy. And we're going to talk about the Louisville Water Company. We're going to talk about dirty water. And if it sounds dirty, um, well, I'll just leave that to you all's discretion. We'll be right back.
Channel playlist to 2024 campaign ads. $35, you know, did I obviously not true. Here's Joe Biden signing Happy legislation. During my 4 years, I have best environmental Trump rolled back environmental protections and dismissed climate change. I don't know anything about it. Our organization is blessed. He's very supportive of what we do. I better look at just fever hosted by Carl Bright Esquire. And we are back with more Conscious Fever hosted by Carl Bright Esquire.
All right, welcome back to Conscious Fever here on Ice Entertainment Television, Conscious Fever Radio. I got a lot going on here. Anyway, I want to talk about. Yes, I know, Monique, the audio is chopped up, and that's only because of the ad. But listen, these voices that you are about to hear tonight are not going to be chopped up, and there's some really interesting stuff that we need to talk about. So first, let me just introduce this whole scenario here. Right, there was a complaint filed in Jefferson Circuit Court here in Kentucky by 4 plaintiffs. And those plaintiffs are LaRon Basie, Josh Bridges, David Gant, and Cleveland Moore Jr. The complaint, or what we call it a complaint as lawyers in the courthouse, but it's really a lawsuit. And the lawsuit was filed against the Louisville Water Company. The plaintiffs are all African American employees of the Louisville Water Company. They allege racial discrimination, retaliation, and a hostile work environment in violation of the Kentucky Civil Rights Act, or the Kentucky version of the Civil Rights Act. So I want to just point out, if I can, audibly, just some of the key allegations in their complaint. Um, and be, but before I do that, I want to just bring something in just as a perspective. One of these cases was scheduled to go to trial and actually did go to trial and was interrupted because apparently an employee, an African American employee, and if I'm wrong, my guest would correct me. An African American employee was about to take the stand. He's a part of the management group, from what I understand. And again, these guys will correct me if I'm incorrect. Um, was about to take the stand and apparently fainted in the courtroom in front of the jury. So the judge declared a mistrial, and they had to do it all over again. Um, but it's kind of interesting because, when a witness faints like that, he or she either has some serious health problems or they are suffering from some type of PTSD because they really don't want to testify in a lawsuit that they believe is probably somewhat unjust. But here are some of the key allegations from the lawsuit. The discriminatory allegations center around certain discriminatory incidents. In 2019, it is alleged that during a department safety meeting, the supervisor showed a video that included a racially offensive Jim Crow minstrel segment. Complaints about the video did not result in any disciplinary action. The plaintiffs report experiencing differential treatment, excessive scrutiny, and being held to a higher performance standards than similarly situated white employees. Some of the individual claims in the lawsuit, for instance, by uh, LaRon Basie, faced retaliation. He alleges that he faced retaliation after reporting discriminatory treatment of a coworker, including being placed on a last chance agreement. And my guests are going to explain that as well, with unrealistic expectations and being demoted. Josh Bridges, Bridges was hired for an emergency turner position that was subsequently eliminated. Later, less qualified white individuals were awarded similar positions. He alleges in the lawsuit that his race influenced those decisions and faced retaliation for previous complaints. David Gant experienced excessive discipline and was placed on a last chance agreement uh, for unsubstantiated allegations. His termination following a license expiration was was handled more harshly compared to white employees, according to him. Cleveland Moore Jr. alleges that he filed a grievance regarding a co-worker's unfair denial of overtime, resulting in retaliatory disciplinary actions against him. They also allege a hostile work environment, and that's civil rights language. But they allege that the Louisville Water Company allowed a racially hostile environment by failing to take appropriate actions to address racial discrimination and retaliatory behaviors. Of course, they claim that they're entitled to lost compensation, wages, emotional distress, and legal costs. They requested a jury trial and a number of other things. But some other things really, or some other processes, if you will, really took place and are taking place in this lawsuit. For instance, the judge has made some findings, and in some of the documents that we reviewed here from Conscious Fever, uh, was very interesting because we found a little bit more detail in reference to some of the responses. For instance, LaRon Basie alleges that he has worked for the Louisville Water Company since 2002, holding various roles. His career has been marked by claims of racial discrimination and retaliation, particularly after he complained about discriminatory practices at the Louisville Water Company. The document that we review cites a history of racial hostility at the Louisville Water Company, including an incident in 2002 involving racial slurs on an employee's locker. The filing also argues that this pattern has persisted over not just one day, not just 1 month, not just 1 year, but decades. The document also alleges in more specifics some of the discriminatory treatment. It details numerous incidents where LaRon Basie, was treated differently than his white colleagues, such as facing harsher discipline from just minor infractions. It includes examples, the document does, where white employees engaged in similar behaviors but were not disciplined. And then the document mentions several instances that are noted where Basie's actions were excessively scrutinized, while similar or more significant oversights by white employees went unpublished. Unpunished. Specific incidents that were cited in this document in 2016, for instance, during a meeting about a vehicle incident, Alan Reed made a racially charged comment which went unaddressed by the company. In August of 2019, a supervisor showed an offensive video reminiscent of Jim Crow imagery during a safety meeting, which offended multiple employees, including Basie. The document also talks about the disciplinary actions that was taken against Basie in 2020, such as being placed on that last chance agreement and subsequently demoted despite meeting performance targets. The retaliation claims Basie alleges that after he reported discriminatory practice, the Louisville Water Company retaliated by subjecting him to heightened scrutiny and unfair disciplinary measures. He describes in this document instances where his work was closely monitored and disciplinary meetings were used to target him unfairly. Now, other African American employees reportedly faced similar retaliation. Um, so that sets the stage. I want to now bring in, if I can, my guests. Our guests tonight are Pastor Self Petway and Torian Murphy. Um, Good evening, good evening, men.
Good evening.
How are you all tonight?
Doing well yourself.
I'm great. I'm great. Um, I obviously that was an earful. What we just heard was an earful. I'm sorry, I do so much here. I was looking for. Okay, here we go. So first, let me just ask because I mentioned this twice. Last chance agreement. And Tori, let me just start with you and just ask if you would, because I know that you are a former employee of the Louisville Water Company. Is that correct?
Yes, sir, that is correct.
Okay, so share with us, if you can, 'cause I heard this a couple of times, and we saw this in this document a couple of times. This so-called last chance agreement. What is that all about?
So, A last chance agreement is a document issued by Human Resources to an employee that has committed an offense that warrants disciplinary action. And so, what the last chance agreement does is essentially says for 2 years or any amount of time determined by Human Resources, that for this amount of time, if you make any mistakes or if you break any rules, if you do anything that they feel warrants disciplinary action, that you will be fired on the spot. Um, and essentially, the end of that last chance agreement states that you cannot take legal action against the company.
Hmm. Interesting. The I guess what Pastor Petway, what I'm just going to ask the direct question because I know you're an activist and not a former employee of the Louisville Water Company, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Why is the water so dirty at the Louisville Water Company when it comes to
So
black
when you
African American men? I'm going to say
so
men, but I know there's a female that has filed a lawsuit as well. But go ahead. Why is the water so dirty at the Louisville Water Company?
So when you look at the history of the water company, it dates back decades. This is not anything new. This has been going on for years. However, many people get to this stage of filing cases and they have been retaliated against, and out of fear, they draw back to keep their jobs. But if you dive deeper into why this keeps happening, it simply falls on the policies and procedures of the Louisville Water Company. When you look at their policies and procedure manual, when it comes to discrimination, racism, and sexism, they have no clear cut policy. Everything refers back to Metro Louisville's governing standards when it comes to those situations. So the water company takes it and passes the buck on to Metro Louisville, and they have no real plan, no real um, disciplinary actions, if you will, within the company to handle these issues. So it keeps perpetuating a system. It keeps this cycle going, and it also deflects responsibility from the water company because they throw it to the mayor. The mayor throws it back to the water company. The water company throws it to the union, and so they keep deflecting through all the policies and procedures that I have read. My 8-year-old daughter could have wrote them. That's how simple they are.
Hmm.
There's nothing in there that gives any clear cut disciplinary action towards any employee, which lets me further know that all of this is just at the whim of whoever's making those decisions.
And so it's interesting because you said there is some reflection back to Metro government, as if Metro government has a connection to the Louisville Water Company. So that's what I'm gonna. So this next question, I'm gonna go back to you, Torian, and see if you can help us understand um, the corporate makeup, if you would, of the Louisville Water Company. Because let me just say this, as it relates to Metro government. And before you answer, let me just say this. I mean, when I think of the Louisville Water Company, when I look at my bill, I just assume that it's coming from the government. But I have since learned from talking to you all that it's actually a private corporation and there's a private foundation. Can you expound on that?
Correct.
So essentially, there is a governing water board, um, which also, if I'm not mistaken, is also the governing body of MSD. And then there's the executive leadership of the water company itself. So essentially, the executive leadership of the water company reports to um, the water board, which is, like I said, it's those positions are appointed by the city, appointed by the mayor. The water board is appointed by the mayor, and the mayor is also listed on the website as part of that governing body. which you can go to the Louisville Water Company website and view this information yourself to see the executive leadership board of the water company and also the water board itself, the governing body of the water company and MSD.
Well, you know what's interesting is that we did a search on a number of these individuals. First, before I get to the individuals, I was looking for a particular one, but we did a search, and here's what we found when we did a search on the Secretary of State's website, which was really interesting. What we found was we found a private corporation that is still active, Blue Focus LLC. Now, what's interesting about Blue Focus LLC is that the principal place of business, according to the Kentucky Secretary of State, is 550 South 3rd Street, which, as we know, is the Louisville Water Company, right?
Hmm.
Okay, but that, and it's called Blue Focus LLC. Not sure what their purpose is, but we pull it's an LLC, a limited liability company. We pull off their website, um, basically their articles of organization, which doesn't take much to create when you're creating an LLC here in Kentucky, and it really doesn't have a lot, but it does have one thing that I thought was very interesting. It has the name of Michael T as basically one of the members, one of the member LLC member managers. What is the significance of Michael T? Because it seems like I saw his name somewhere else as being not only the registered agent of the Louisville Water Company, okay, which is a different entity, but he's also associated with a lot of other organizations that seem to be quasi private. I don't know if you or Pastor Petway can comment on that particular confusion for me.
Pastor Petway, I'll let you have this because you know I have been officially been subpoenaed, so I don't want to say too much about Mr. T.
I'll take this question. So what that does show you is how entangled the water company is with certain people and organizations. Also, it shows that the Louisville Water Company has such an invested interest in the um, community, and it shows that a lot of these individuals have these shell companies that the water company uses to pay off different individuals when they rise up against them. Um, I have reviewed some of those documents. I have been looking over those, but it just shows a bit of corruption within the water company.
So here's something else we found. We found the Louisville Water Foundation Incorporated, which, according to its incorporating documents, is basically a charitable organization, 501c organization. Um, Again, it has the same address as the Louisville Water Company, but I'm not sure how it operates and how it is so entangled, other than being the nonprofit arm of the Louisville Water Company. However, what I thought was interesting was the president of the Louisville Water Foundation is an individual by the name of Spencer Bruce, shares that same address of Louisville Water. Is he an employee at the Louisville Water Company, Torian or Pastor? Do you know?
Yes, he
Spencer
is an
Bruce.
employee at the water company, and actually, Spencer Bruce. It's funny that you mentioned his name. Is entangled in a lot of these allegations that have been presented to the water company, that have been presented in court. Spencer Taylor is one that has tried to deflect a lot of this, but yet has a major role in it. A lot of these allegations have been reported to Spencer Taylor. A lot of complaints he's had heard about. However, he did nothing about them because the person in leadership and was one of his buddies. So Spencer Taylor does a lot of covering up for the water company. Also, when you look at that nonprofit organization with the water company, you also will find that some individuals that the water company has tried to hush, they use that arm to pay those individuals to keep them silent. Um, Yet and still, it's funny how they continue to get away with a lot of this. but they use that shell company, that organization, to not only pay people off, they use that for various reasons. A lot of the struggles that uh, certain individuals have had trying to acquire representation legally, adequate representation, they have been shut down because the Louisville Water Company uh, knows how to give the money to get what they want.
Hmm. That's interesting. Let me just call a few names here. So I called Michael Teague, Spencer Bruce, but it seems like the three players here are Spencer Bruce, Michael Teague, and then Lynn Pearson. I don't know if that's a male or female. It looks like it spells it like it's a female. And she is the treasurer listed as the Louisville Water Foundation Incorporated. Spencer Bruce is the president of the foundation. Michael Teague is the secretary. Then you go to the Louisville Water Company, and you have Spencer Bruce as the president, and then a host of other vice presidents, including Michael Teague and Lynn Pearson. And I understand that Michael Teague and Lynn Pearson share a certain role in actual under the roof of the Louisville Water Company, right? As vice president. For instance, they're vice presidents of a particular department.
That's
That's
correct.
correct. There are multiple, I believe, 8 or 9 vice presidents, all of which who make substantial 6-figure salaries.
Like almost a
I,
$250,000.
uh, I would go higher.
Wow. And
That
so
information, that's public information that can be looked up.
yeah, so I'm just trying to understand and trying to get everybody to understand before we go to the comments. How do we explain this entanglement? How do we explain this entanglement? How do we have a situation where an employee complains about racial discrimination to the Louisville Water Company? Louisville Water Company says, "Oh, it's not us," but they are an entity, a whole separate Kentucky entity than a municipal entity, according to the Kentucky Secretary of State. How do they then say, in a sense, that we don't have to have all of these policies? Why don't you go talk to Louisville, or go through the process through metro government? How do we explain that entanglement?
So if you go back and you look at this entanglement, December 1st, 2020, Mayor Greg Fisher declares racism as a severe problem. He states that this is an issue, this is a crisis in Louisville, Kentucky, and it's a crisis abroad. He signs an order December 1st, 2020, stating that Metro Louisville will not tolerate any forms of racial discrimination, will not tolerate it. If you go back, a lot of these cases started back in 2019, I believe, when it was first filed. So if Mayor Fisher signs this order in 2020, we have a case going in 2019.
Hmm.
It shows us that a lot of things that public officials do is only to blow smoke. It wants to show that we're doing something, but we're not really doing anything at all. Because per Mayor Fisher's order in 2020, this should have been rectified immediately. Those that were in charge should have been terminated. Those that had a hand in this should have been terminated. And Mayor Fisher and Mayor Greenberg have the power and the authority to get rid of everybody that occupies a board seat at Louisville Water Company.
Yeah.
However, Mayor Greenberg has not done so.
Right. I mean, that's difficult when you're ciphering in what $23 million. It seems like I heard of 23 or $26 million that the Louisville Water Company turned over to Metro government. Was that?
That's correct.
That's correct.
That's
Yeah.
correct.
So Torian, let me ask you this. I know you were a former employee there, correct?
Yes, sir. That's
Okay.
correct.
And I understand that you have since. I mean, before we came on the air, you somehow picked it up, or you were served with a subpoena to present yourself for a deposition in one of those lawsuits that I mentioned. I'm assuming.
That's correct.
Okay, so if you're reserved in what you want to say, I can appreciate that. I think we all can appreciate that. But what was the environment, in your opinion, like at the Louisville Water Company when you worked there?
Excuse me, man. I'm getting a little emotional because it's pretty heavy. Um, Okay, so in the beginning, the first, my first few months at the company, um, it was, you know, not many people said hello or spoke to me at all. I
Hmm.
say good morning or introduce myself or things of that nature. It was just kind of like walking on eggshells. As I began to prove myself, prove that I could do the work, that I was a capable learner, a quick learner, and had a very mechanical mind. There were some folks who opened up to me and welcomed me with open arms. Um, as time went on, I began to just constantly feel a sense of that people did not want me there. Now, that's not to say that there aren't good people there. There are people, um, good human beings there of both races that that are good people and people that I care about. Um, but the environment itself was out was very hostile, to say the least, because it's like I had to work um, 10 times as hard as everybody else. I had to, prove myself, and this is going on, 2, 3, 4 years now that, you know, I'm constantly giving my all in every position that I've been put in, and still being disrespected, still being spoken down to, um, and just it felt like I said, like people didn't want me there. Like they wanted their cousin or their nephew
Wow.
or someone like that to have my job, and I was actually told that by one of the former union vice presidents. A man by the name of Bart Matherly had a debate with me one day while we were on the job. I was on the ground changing the meter, and he was, literally debating why I got that job instead of someone who had more experience. And like I said, they made me feel like I was an affirmative action hire, essentially.
Hmm. As
That's
if
what
you
that
didn't
meant.
belong there.
Yes, as if I did not belong, no matter how much. And the thing is, Carl, when it came to managers and supervisors or crew leaders talking about my work, about the work I did on the job, they complimented me. They even went to management, to the supervisors upstairs, and said, "Hey, Torian bust his butt out there in the field. He's smart." Um, and the current manager of Almond Avenue, Joe Schmidt, came to me multiple times and said, "Hey, I'm hearing you're really doing a great job out there." But on the flip side, there was the former uh, labor relations manager, a man by the name of Michael Sturgeon, who is at the is at the center of a lot of these lawsuits, um, who consistently, because I spoke up about one incident where I felt like I was being targeted, because I spoke up about one incident. He then started to harass me, intimidate me, and essentially tried to pad my record, my paper record, to make me look like a bad employee. Meanwhile, verbally, I've got, Joe Schmidt telling me that, hey, I'm hearing you're doing a great job out there. Or Greg Armenta telling me, hey, you did a great job as an emergency turner. Like, I'm hearing great things about you. So, uh, it's just really, it was really traumatizing to say the least. And just talking about it, like I said, it has me emotional because I know what these people are going through.
Mhm. And
And like I said, I've been subpoenaed, and I know for a fact that that is this very same retaliation and intimidation that I experienced as an employee. That's why they subpoenaed me.
okay, did they do you you're not working with Louisville Water Company now,
No,
right?
sir. I've been away from the company for since 2018.
Okay. Do you feel like they force you to leave?
Yes, to be specific, um, and like I said, I'm not fearing anything. I have God on my side, but to be specific, Michael Sturgeon told me that I was to either resign or be fired. And I'll be honest with you, um, when I first started to experience these feelings around my second year, I failed a drug test for marijuana, um, and I was suspended. Did everything the way I was supposed to. Went to classes, and I was back to work in about 2.5 weeks. And so once I came back, like I said, I was placed on a last chance agreement for 2 years, and then I was also placed on a 36-month drug and alcohol policy. But at the same time, I and other folks had witnessed white employees screaming and hollering at supervisors, at administration employees, because they didn't get the meter reading route that they wanted, or because of the assignment that they got. Uh, and nothing at all happened to them. It was also, there were just multiple instances where there were white employees that had done egregious things, like flip an excavator, or openly talk about using drugs, or openly talk about coming in on call outs while being drunk, or tossing beer cans in the bed of their truck while they're pulling in the gate. Um, Employees that intentionally destroyed water company meters so they could be replaced with what's called a pro read meter, where you don't have to open the vault. You simply stick a reader down on it and it reads, the reading. That particular employee busted meters multiple times. He had falsified meter readings. He had also apparently tested positive for a controlled substance and was given 3 days to produce a prescription for that substance and was not taken off the job.
Let me
Uh,
guess.
you know,
White?
these instances. I'm sorry.
I said, let me guess. Was he white?
Yes, and he's still employed,
And still employed there.
and there are many others who have done things.
Yeah, let me get back to the pastor here. Pastor, it just sounds like that 550 South Third Street is just in this city which a lot of our mayors, former and current, have called Louisville is a compassionate city. It just sounds like at 550 South Third Street, that's just you go past this nice looking building. It's called the Louisville Water Company, and basically it's just a inside. It's just a corner of Jim Crowism.
Definitely so. And I want to, I hope those that are watching can see Torian, and the pain that he has had to endure. Um, and what it has caused him emotionally. And it's not only a Torian, but there are multiple other employees that have this same kind of feeling towards the Louisville Water Company. They have the same kind of emotions towards the Louisville Water Company. Although they may be going to work daily, they dread the fact that if they do the wrong thing, they're terminated. They dread the fact that they have no representation from a union. They dread the fact that a HR representative who looks like us does not even stand for us. They dread the fact that they go out and bust their butts every day, rain, sleet, or snow, but yet they have no representation. Um, when you look at the Louisville Water Company, it's a company that, yes, it has behind the facade of we're for our employees, we're for our community. But when you hear these horror stories, it lets us know that there's a different side of a coin. When you look at the union, who has approximately 144 people within the union, out of those 144 individuals that are in the union, only 23 of those are black. That's 23. Out of those 23 black people that are in the union, that represents about 16% of African Americans within the Louisville Water Company, right? Which we know that is not accurate. However, to keep up with federal regulations when it comes to hiring minorities, that's what they stand behind. That's what they do. They really don't care about the minority. They don't care if we are excelling. They don't care if we are expressing our concerns. They really don't care. Just as long as they're meeting the basic number to have us on in the job, have us on the union, they're okay. Also, just to bring this up, when we had a press conference about a week ago, right? We have this conference. We're outside of the Louisville Water Company. We're expressing what's going on, just to show you how this retaliation works against us. Torian just spoke about a subpoena that he just received. Ironically, it's after a rally and a protest in front of the Louisville Water Company.
Mm.
Wasn't before, but it was after a rally and a protest in front of the Louisville Water Company. After a meeting that was held at my church, Zion Hope Missionary Baptist Church, we had a meeting. It was public. After that, he gets a subpoena. After we called out Mary Greenberg and the whole Metro Louisville government, and we call out the Louisville Water Company, he gets a subpoena. That shows you that the water company, along with Mayor Greenberg, would like to keep this as quiet as possible to save their face,
Mm.
to say that, oh, this is just a bunch of bull, that it's not really going on. That's why when you look at the documentation from the union to HR to the board, it's not there. The
Mm.
union fails to take these complaints to HR.
Mm.
HR fails to hear the individuals. If one of these brothers or sisters goes to the HR and they say this is going on, guess what they say? We haven't heard about it from the union. Why would you hear about it from the union when the union does not even represent the full demographics of the company?
Yeah, that's what I was about to ask. Where is the union in all of this? Torian, can you turn in on that?
So here's the thing. In 2015, when actually contract negotiations for the old contract, which is expired now, they've negotiated a new one. But back in 2014-15, when they were negotiating the new contract, the union president at that time, Mr. Adam Carter, and the union vice president, Mr. Kevin Sturgeon, who is the younger brother of Mike Sturgeon, the labor relations liaison. So there you have basically the top human resources official on the company side, and then you have his younger brother as the vice president of the union. So essentially, what that lets you know is that, hey, the company and the union work together. Uh, they work together to tamp down any grievances that may be filed, or any issues that may be brought to light, which essentially the incident that I was referring to that caused me to be targeted. um, I was out at Crescent Hill, the filtration plant on Frankfurt Avenue, and they were going to replace the white guy that was with me, a good fellow, good person, a fellow by the name of Richard, good guy. They were going to replace him with a black employee, right? And so essentially, what that meant was Richard would go back to Almond Avenue, and his pay would be raised up to a higher level, and then the other black employee that would come work with me at Crescent Hill, we would be making right around $12 an hour. And so the stories that I had heard from older employees is that that's what they would do to black employees, is send them out to Crescent Hill or to BE Pain Plant, to make a lesser amount of money than they would be making at the Almond Avenue distribution plant.
Mm. That's interesting. Listen, so one of the things that we do here on Conscious Fever, just to keep the audience engaged, we engage ourselves in these. We call them comments. So we don't want to leave the audience out. So I'm gonna just run through some of these comments, um, and then we'll do that real fast. Some of them will get really interesting. I told you guys that these people come on, and not these people, but our people that like Conscious Fever. They come on and they like to say hi. It's a family affair. So y'all can join me in telling everybody hi. Good evening, Monica. Hello, Monica. Hi again, Monica. You're speaking to everybody. We know the ad was chopped. Monique, Stephanie. Uh, Stephanie, did you say it's terrible love? I think what you were saying was we like to hear the word love on Conscious Fever. Monique thinks that this is interesting, and so one of you guys, Renee, is saying hello to. She never.
Hello, hello.
I have a co.
Hello.
They always chose him over me. So you'll see what happens with the comments. It just gets really interesting. Uh, Monique says a good old boy workplace. You all agree to or disagree?
I totally agree. Totally agree. And it's just it is what it is with the Louisville Water Company. It's just something they try to keep a good old boy system.
Mm,
I agree wholeheartedly that there's a lot of nepotism, a lot of family members and related members that are, on the company and the union side. They hire each other.
And one interesting point when you mentioned that union, and Toria mentioned about the uh, one of the guys that moved up. There is also one individual that moved from the union at Louisville Water Company who moved out to the headquarters of that same union, which is another gatekeeper that keeps those allegations from rising.
that's interesting. Employee of interest with major allegations against his buddies. I don't know what that means, but maybe Monique knows something we don't know. Pearson, Spencer, Bruce, Michael, T. Major players for both the water company and the nonprofit. Yeah, Monique, that's what we were talking about.
Yes,
It's a little intriguing to me. Just looking at the doc, and I guess I'm just so perplexed about how this stuff happens. I mean, I said earlier it's happening so close to the Penn Dentist Club. Maybe that's the only rationale we can give it in this so-called city of compassion. He's not going to
you're
jail.
right.
Sees him. Interesting. Monique says it sounds like a very toxic workplace. Is it, guys?
Very toxic.
It
Yeah.
is
Very
very,
toxic.
very toxic.
So very sad, Mr. Murphy. Uh,
You have employees that have sought treatment just by how they have been treated for their mental health.
I I saw a psychologist for almost 2 years after I left the company,
wow.
and like I said, it's re-traumatizing right now getting this piece of paper delivered to me by a man in a black Mercedes.
Was he a black man?
No,
Because sometimes they like to rub it in. Very upsetting to hear your experiences, Tori, and they failed you, and you deserve much better. Yeah. I just don't understand how we can, when Derby time comes, we can put on black ties and we can do all of this and that and welcome the world to this city, and this is happening right in the middle of downtown Louisville.
It's very troubling when you mention that point that we can suit up for Derby, we can look good for the public. What is really happening here is that the Louisville Water Company, along with Mayor Greenberg, have found a way to keep this quiet because public they don't speak about it, right? When you hear about racial discrimination, the first thing you hear about is LMPD. You hear about anything with Louisville Corrections. You do not hear about the racial disparities when it comes to the Louisville Water Company. So they've been able to hide behind that. Now, when you look at how Mayor Greenberg was able to remove a police chief off of allegations and court filings and all of that, he should have been able to do the same thing with those that occupied the board of the Louisville Water Company and management. That just shows that there is more of a connection than just mayor and water company.
Hmm. That is interesting. That is a now that's a very interesting point. Very interesting point. Did I lose something here? Yeah, I did. Okay. Uh, System always has a way of messing with me. So let me get back. So um, let me just inform those who are watching and those who are listening that in the case involving Joshua Bridges earlier that I spoke about, That was the case. I believe that that was the case that actually started the trial. But in the law, us civil practitioners and our basically those of us who are civil litigators, and I'm a civil litigator. One of the things that we do in a civil case, we deal with motions to dismiss the case. We deal with motions to basically end the case early, and we call those summary judgments. Well, that was filed in the case involving the Louisville Water Company and Joshua Bridges. And so it gave the judge an opportunity to basically test the allegations, at least of Mr. Bridges. And because they're so similar to the other plaintiffs, probably those two. And the judge provided an interesting ruling where he said basically there's enough evidence to go before the jury. For instance, he said that the plaintiffs alleged racial and disability discrimination, hostile work environment, and retaliation by the Louisville Water Company. The court evaluated Louisville Water Company's motion for summary judgment, which aimed to dismiss these claims. For racial discrimination claim, the court talked about the background of Bridges. He's an Louisville Water Company employee since 2008. He talked about the discriminatory incidents, including the denial of a promotion, excessive scrutiny, targeted drug tests, and being subjected to racially offensive content. And the court found that Joshua Bridges, actually established a prima facie case or a primary case of racial discrimination. Said that he provided evidence suggesting that he was qualified for a promotion to emergency turner, but was denied despite white employees with similar qualifications being hired for the position. So, and the judge made a number of other rulings, including, just to be fair to Louisville Water Company, there were some of the claims that were, that were dismissed during the process. So, what's interesting, guys, that what I'm having problem ingesting is the fact that we're just a few months away from 2025.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and we can all pull out the measuring tape that measures our existence in years, and the existence of this country, the existence of the Civil Rights Act, and actually how pivotal the black lawyers in Louisville were to challenge some of the discriminatory practices here in Louisville. But yet we have a sophisticated system on the corner of 3rd and Chestnut, 550 South 3rd Street, right here in downtown Louisville, that is practicing discrimination under this disguise that you're a private company with public influence, with public backing, taxpayer backing, but you're a private company. And so you're able to get away with all of this, in addition to the fact that you're able to get away with it because the government, in and of itself, who has a hand and an interest in all of this, is basically hoping, as you said, Pastor Petway, that it all goes away.
Correct. And it just shows through these whole court proceedings. I had the honor and the privilege of being at court this last go around. And you mentioned Josh Bridges' case. I was in the courtroom for this last hearing. And what's interesting is that all the evidence is there. The proof is in the pudding. But you have a system that is designed to keep from hearing the facts, right? So we know that this previous case was just about one. We know not only was it just about one, we had a black man that got sick, ironically, at the time of the closing of the trial, which is a little bit suspicious, right? After that, you come back and you get ready to gear up for your next trial. Now all of a sudden you have another witness that gets sick out of nowhere. Not only does the witness get sick, but then you hear of the attorneys for the Louisville Water Company saying, We've just got emails and texts over the last week. Well, if you got that information over a week ago, that should have been presented to the judge as soon as you got that information about your witness, stating that he or she has an illness. Can we do a written deposition instead of that person being in court in person? That's the first thing. Secondly, the witness that you claim is sick has already given dispositions. Why can't we move forward with the dispositions that have already been filed with the court to move this case forward? Because it's unfair, it's unjust, and in America we are due a swift and speedy trial with all fairness. However, the Louisville Water Company pulls out every stunt and every stops it can to keep from giving those who have been affected their just due. Now you have an individual that has been in court longer than 2 years, all because the Louisville Water Company keep having witnesses and mysteriously getting sick at time of trial.
And
That to me says we have a conspiracy.
yeah, and even fainting in front of a jury. And I guess Judge Edwards felt that he was doing the right thing by declaring a mistrial. I get it. As a civil litigator, we try to keep everything that has nothing to do with the case and away from the jury where they can imply some things. But I understand that this witness shortly thereafter took a trip to Hawaii or something. I don't know if it was already planned or whether he was. And I'm not, I mean, listen, this is just my opinion, so I don't want y'all to sue me. But y'all sue me, I'm a lawyer. Y'all know I'm a lawyer, 30 plus years, so I can sue back. But or whether it was reparations for, the great acting job. And I say that Torian and Pastor Petway. I don't know the individual witness that fainted, but I do understand that some at the Louisville Water Company felt that he was under an extreme amount of pressure to offer testimony in favor of the Louisville Water Company. And I just heard that through the grapevine, through the little bees, from the beehive.
I do not think he was in any more distress or pressure than any one of these individuals who have a lawsuit or a case against the Louisville Water Company. He has not endured any type of pressure. Number one, because he sits on the board and in the offices with these individuals. So it's hard to try your friend in court when you guys go out and have golf together. You guys are going on trips. It's hard. He has not endured no type of pain. He goes home and keeps his job.
Preach,
They speak up, they lose their job.
preach.
What type of pain has he endured? None. They keep
Interesting.
using this as a crutch because they understand under the eyes of the law, they have already lost. So the best way for me to do this is prolong it as long as possible. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to start offering up little monies just to keep people quiet, to
Yeah.
keep them from testifying. He's not endured anything. He's not. He still has a
Or they
job.
offer, or they
He still
offer
has
threat.
benefits. He still has every creature comfort. But these individuals have lost their creature comforts trying to stand up for justice.
Right.
They lost it. And then also a notable point in this trial that I was just a part of, Louisville Water Company tried to keep the word mistrial off of docket. Not off of docket, but out of the court record.
Mhm.
They kept saying we do not want to use the word mistrial. If the word mistrial is used, Judge, will you please let everyone know we cannot use mistrial?
Mm.
They kept
That's
doing that.
interesting. That
Now,
that is interesting.
very.
Well, somebody agrees with you, Pastor. I guess he didn't want to be in jail for perjury. This is
Yep.
just awful, man. Very hard for me to watch. Whatever is done in the dark will eventually come to light, Renee. That is absolutely correct. Um, here's Margie. You can say that again. They know they are lying to the court every time they pass out. Yeah, I mean it's really ruthless in a lot of ways. In a lot of ways, this whole thing that we're listening to and that we're talking about is really ruthless. Come on, machine, don't do this to me. There we go. It's really ruthless to think that not only will they continue to subpoena individuals, to harass them, to try to intimidate them, intimidate them, retaliate against them, and then go so far as to stage a man to faint.
Correct.
You know, just to just to put the brakes on the case. And I understand after this feigning incident, again, that's my opinion, that's what it sounds like. After this feigning incident, what, there was some additional settlement negotiations. But the settlement negotiations were just horrible.
Yes. It shows that we don't want to pay you what you deserve. What we want to do is give you enough to be quiet. That is the way to keep this systematic racism going, to keep those, we got a little, they did pay us, they did give us something. But what does that say about those that are coming behind? This is a decade old matter. So this has not only been something that just happened, it's been going on. It's been going on. But because Louisville, Metro Louisville Water Company has a great way of hiding it. We don't see it. And when these employees do speak about it, they're terminated. So then it looks as if they're just upset because they were fired and not they're upset because they really had some egregious actions taken against them. Now, anytime that we all remember the story, we all remember the story with Louisville Water Company, I believe it was several years ago, that they had an employee um, that had a wreck. It was very public. It was very public. Um, Not long after that, that employee was terminated with the company. The employee had drugs, everything in their system, had a wreck on 64. Person ended up losing their life.
Hmm.
They were terminated. All right. The only reason that I'm bringing that up because it shows that number one, Louisville Water Company will not make a move until they're exposed.
Hmm.
And they have to come to the stage and answer those questions.
Hmm.
They will not move until they're put in the seat to move. Um, and it just shows that they are not really for their employees,
Yeah.
African American employees. It shows that the union is taking their money but not representing them.
Yeah. Very interesting.
And Pastor, that was an MSD employee, which is under the same governing body, a white MSD employee that killed an LMPD detective that I went to middle
Yeah.
school with. I was friends with her in middle school, sweetheart, Detective Deidre Mangido, absolute sweetheart. But you're right, Pastor. Their feet have to be held to the fire, and they can try to threaten me, intimidate me all they want to. Uh, I keep my heat on me at all times, and my house is well protected as well. And the fight that I will continue, that I have started, and I will continue, uh, in honor of my grandfather, the late Reverend Lewis Coleman. They're not gonna scare me,
A great
and I'm
man.
not gonna stop. I will not stop.
Okay. Let me just I gotta save some face here for the show because I think the comments are coming from YouTube and not from Facebook. So I'm gonna take a personal privilege here to do this. Hamara Brewster. I want you all to hear some of her comments. It said they can't kill you. All they can do is say no. walk away. You've learned what you need to know. Mission accomplished. And these are kind of out of time, so they may not make sense now. Uh, but Ahamara is a very, very sensible person. Um, but don't dread the fact that you can challenge them in the court of law once removed. Once you gain the truth, take it to trial. It may be esteemed now, but you have the upper hand. The pressure is for you not to challenge it in law. That's what they fear. We going to trial. Call me for motivation. I ain't mad for real. We just don't dominate corporations to put us in a position. Tolerate corporations. We're going to trial. Prove it in court of law. Their bad practices. It's all there. Join forces. Don't give me a design fine. Find the lawyers and judges not from here who can help us. We need Florida representation. John Yah says life will throw curveballs and adversaries in one's journey, but not without a divine reason behind it. Have you discovered it and created a better life for yourself and your family, or are you still holding on to the pain, allowing it to block your blessings? Tell us how this unfortunate situation made you a better man. Interesting question.
I want to inject right there, and respond to that.
Okay.
Um, I get life does throw us curveballs, and we do have to adjust and readjust to keep moving. But it's hard to readjust and tell somebody to readjust when they have to relive this daily.
Mm-hmm.
Not only do they have to relive it daily, but this man just got a subpoena to go to court who does not have a case actively in Jefferson County concerning the Louisville Water Company, but has been subpoenaed. A man that has dealt with the financial loss, the trauma, the heartache and pain, but yet is continuing to fight for others, right? He has changed and has used this not for himself, but used it to help those who are coming behind him. That's one individual. You have another individual that has been going to treatment for PTSD
Mm-hmm.
that has to relive this daily. Every time he has to go to court, every time there's something about the Louisville Water Company on news or wherever it may be, has to relive this. So I think we really need to take into account these individuals in their stories and understand, yes, they are trying to move on. They are trying to use this and find the golden nuggets of life's lessons to move forward. But at the same time, when you constantly are faced with um, subpoenas, you're constantly faced with, you're just about to close this case in court, then a witness gets sick. Then not only does the water company witness get sick, but then your water company attorneys are talking while in court on record, stating, "Hey, I'm leaving on Friday because I'm going out of town because I got to do a procedure." One of the other Louisville Water Company attorneys had broke his rib, and now he wants to take off from court. So these things, these individuals have to deal with daily.
Mm-hmm. And I agree with you, Pastor, that the longer litigation uh, is really traumagation. you know,
Yes.
I mean, it's really traumagation. Nobody likes to go through it. I can tell you as a lawyer, if we have a personal case in court, that's the last thing we want to do because we get the opportunity to experience firsthand all the trauma that people go through. So you can imagine somebody who goes through a case because of a wrongful death, but the similar pain from a wrongful death when they or even a victim of rape that has to go and testify about that, and we saw the emotion that Torian showed earlier, but the longer they strain this out is
Mm-hmm.
probably a part of the strategy.
It is, in hopes that they drop out of the race,
Right.
Exactly.
and that the Louisville Water Company says, "See, this was just all a bunch of smoke," right? And this has been the game plan for the Louisville Water Company for the past 30 plus years. There's 4 cases right now, I believe, in court. But if you talk to past employees that have been there 30 plus years or 20 plus years and are no longer with the company, they would tell you they have experienced these same egregious actions against them. Yet they only stayed because I needed a job. Number two, I didn't want to get have a termination on my record. Uh, number three, I had to deal with the backlash. This is a culture of the Louisville Water Company that it has used for years against African American individuals. They have faced trauma. Trauma.
Mm.
And here's the thing. I'll say this. Um, After my separation from the company, I did move on, and have become, pretty successful, I would say, since then. But it depends how you define success. Some people define
Absolutely.
success by what material possessions they have, by how large their bank account is. I define success by the kind of father I am to my daughter. I define success by the legacy of my grandparents that I carry on. I define success by the amount of people that I help through the hard things they've gone through in their life. So my definition of success is a lot different than most people's, because my definition of success is based on um, the impact that I have on the souls of human beings, on the souls of children, on the souls of old folks, on the souls of anybody that I can help, that I can make smile, that I can give a positive and encouraging word to. And I truly believe that God has placed a calling upon my life to help people. And not only is that something that is apparent now, but when I look back over my life through the person I was in college, the person I was in high school and middle school and elementary school, I've been ministering to folks my entire life, because love ultimately is the most powerful tool in the universe. And it is the greatest legacy that you can leave as a human being on this planet, that you made people feel loved, that you made people feel cared about, that you made people feel helped, that you made people feel like God intervened in their life through you directly. So, like I said, how I define success is a whole lot different. Now, I own my house, my vehicles are paid for, so I'm blessed. I have moved on, but at the end of the day, the mission that has been placed upon me is a much higher calling than Tori and Jay Murphy. This mission is a mission from God, and there's nobody that can convince me otherwise.
Mm. Absolutely. Well said. Um, Somebody said amen there. I guess we'll just put that right in front of all of us. Okay. Um, Man, this has been. I was reading one of the comments, and somebody said that this is a tough show tonight. you know, but the truth hurts, right? I mean, the truth hurts.
Yes.
You know, and that's just our reality. But anyway, we've been on here for longer than we should have been, but the conversation and the discussion and the topic required us to do that. I would tell everybody out there just a couple of things. One, the lawsuit has to be given another date. These cases are public to watch. If you ever want to stop by Division 11 in the Jefferson Circuit Court, it's at 700 West Jefferson Street. And if you want to find out when the case is back on, you can find all the contact information at jeffersoncircuitcourt.com, and then just go down and look for Division 11. You can find all the contact information, emails, and different things like that. And you can just make a call and say, do you have a date on the Joshua Bridges case or the other individual cases, just to keep an eye on this? Because I think as a community, and I'm sure you guys agree, that we really need to keep an eye on this, because
Absolutely.
at some point, the exposure has to happen. And I know when we go off the air, I'm just judging by what I'm seeing come on and go off, that there's probably going to be at least 200 or 300 people that probably watch this. A lot of people don't say anything, they just sit back and watch. And Tori, and I'm sure those attorneys are watching. Some of those attorneys I know. and I'm sure they're watching to try to pad their notes to ask you some questions, and they'll probably download this from YouTube or from Twitter or from Facebook. But at the end of the day, I'm saddened by the fact that I made the Derby comment, Pastor, and but there's so much more. The basketball season is coming here in downtown
Oh
Louisville,
yeah.
Yum season, and I mean the Yum Center, and all of a sudden we all are going to go down there and decked in our red as if this compassionate city it has no uncompassion at all, and it's just ridiculous, and that's why stuff like this needs to come to light. And I am happy that you guys took it out of your late Thursday evening because there is a Thursday night football game on Prime tonight to have this conversation with us. So I'm going to give you guys the last words, about 60 seconds of last words before we get out of here.
I want to say thank you, Mr. Carl Price, for allowing us to be on this show tonight. It's been an honor to share with you all and the viewers of what's actually going on with the Louisville Water Company. I just ask, please, ma'am, please, sir, follow what's going on. Get behind these employees. Um, Show them that you want to support, that you care. Again, thank you for this time, and I pray you guys have a blessed night.
Yeah, oh yeah. Okay, give us just a second, pass before you log off. Go ahead, Tori.
I would echo the sentiment that Pastor Seth Petway just made. All this information is available to you about the trials online. You can go search uh, anything you want to know about the Louisville Water Company. Go to their website. You know, do some looking around and digging around there. But at the end of the day, like I said, this is a truly deep issue, and we thank you for your support in the comments. Thank you for the support you will offer in the future, and thank you, Carl, for this platform, and thank you, Pastor Petway, for taking on this mantle.
Yeah, and I would tell you all that I'm going to be a little bit. I'm going to be watching this just a little bit more closely. Let me finish up the show with these comments. Monique, thank you. Amen. The truth can be painful, but this conversation was definitely necessary. Thank you,
Mm,
Monique. Thank you, Mr. Murphy and Pastor Petway, for this tonight. I'm definitely going to be following this. Uh,
thank you.
yes, they are so will so yes they are so yes they are. So will the mayor's attorney? Let's all come to grandstand as one, and then Jessica Oliveira. More people need to know about this situation. Is not well enough exposed yet. Gotta share it. Gotta share it. Why? And Jessica, there is one surefire way to share this broadcast. One surefire way to do it. Come on, don't do this to me. Okay, there's one surefire way to do it, and just share this in everybody's feed that you know on Facebook, as well as YouTube. This is, and you can find it on the Conscious Fever Facebook page or my personal Facebook page. When you have found my personal Facebook page when you see the pretty guy with the sunglasses. Okay, handsome guy with the sunglasses, I should say. That'd be me. But anyway, guys, thank you for joining me tonight, and let's do this again. Let's come back and talk about a status. We do this once a week, and maybe in about a month, we can see what's going on. The court system doesn't move that quick, but when it does turtle its way to the trial again, hopefully we can come back and have some really interesting conversation. And by the way, everybody, if you want to know, the trial transcript is available, the video is available. Just go to the third floor of the Hall of Justice. You can get the video, hear all the testimony, and maybe that might be something that we would do just to further this conversation. So for everybody that logged in with this conversation, thank you all very much. Again, I cannot, based upon the way these things hook up here tonight with the producer, but no engineer. The sound is all over it when we show a commercial. So, our legendary video that we show, a change is going to come. We're not going to show that. Let me just show this comment. What is that? I'm going to snitch on you, Carl. What are you going to snitch on me about, Stephanie? Thank you. Would love to see this on the platform again. We're going to put it on the platform again. Third floor trial of justice, third floor hall of justice, Monique. Just come and join us. Anyway, thanks for joining us. This has been Conscious Fever here on Ice Entertainment Television, Conscious Fever Radio. Pastor Petway, thank you, sir. Brother Murphy, thank you. And man, we miss Buster, man.
I miss him
We
too.
do.
I miss him every day, and I know the city does.
I'm a thoroughbred, so I remember when he was coaching up there. Yeah, we miss Buster. Monique, if you think the show was awesome, thank these two guys for taking out of their Thursday evening to join us tonight. Anyway, I cannot end the show with what we normally would end the show with, so we're just going to log off. Guys, thank you so much. Have a good evening. And again, this has been Conscious Fever here on Ice Entertainment Television, Conscious Fever Radio. We'll see you next week.
Bless you.
Bless you.
You are listening to Conscious Fever, hosted by Carl Price.
I was born by the river in a little tent. Like the river I've been running ever since. It's been a long time coming, but I know change gonna come. Oh yes it will. It's been too hard living, but I'm afraid to die. 'Cause I don't know what's up there beyond the sky. It's been a long time coming, but I know a change gonna come. Oh yes it is. Then I go to my brother. And I say, brother, help me please. But he wind up knocking me back down on the knee. Oh, there've been times that I thought I couldn't last for long, but now I think I'm able, Father, to carry on. And it's been a long time coming, but I know change gonna come. Oh, yes it is. Yes it is. Yes it is. Said I know that a change is gonna come one day. I know a change